Hey, everybody. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here and joining this morning. My name is Lori. I'm our Director of Partnerships for Aura Salonware, and I am joined by the Tippy crew. So I'm excited to introduce them to all of you. But before we get started this morning, I just want to share that there is a Q&A box and also the chat box. So as we're going through all of the topics today, if you have questions or comments or anything to share, drop it into the Q&A or on the chat, and we'll make sure that we get through there before the end of the session and answer any of the questions that everybody may have. But we are here today to talk about Tippy and our newest partnership with Aura Salonware and Tippy, and just a little backstory on how this partnership was formed. We met, I believe, David first originally years ago, and through the past years, we know we have some salon customers, and the importance of tips and the capabilities to be able to provide those tips to service providers in a most efficient manner. And so naturally, this partnership just formed, and we want to be able to provide ease of use, the latest technology for both salon owners and service providers in the most efficient way possible. So this partnership was formed, and I am excited. I know that there's a lot of curiosity around tip tax that I prepped them for already. I know that there's questions there, so we will dive into that, as well as how Tippy actually works as an integration to Aura and what that would look like. And Marcy and I will dive into that a little bit more. But let me just introduce, or I guess I can have you guys introduce yourselves a little bit further. And I know we want to kind of start with the history of Tippy and where it kind of came from. So Terry and David, thank you for being here. And I'll let you guys give yourselves an introduction or introduce each other if you want, and how Tippy was founded, formed, and where the idea came from.
Terry should start that because it was his idea.
Ooh, Terry.
That's a lot of pressure. They yeah, I mean, as everyone says, usually the idea starts on the back of a napkin. I think in this case, it was on the back of a piece of paper in a marketing meeting at the salons that I had worked at. Grew up in the industry. My mom cut hair, and David and I are actually brother-in-laws. I got him roped into this out of the industry he's in and suckered him into this one, and it's been a fun ride. But our mother-in-law actually was a well-known hairstylist as well, so it's pretty full circle. Um, we like to say that it was built for the industry in the industry. It's not an idea that was just made up from someone on the outside and created to be a moneymaker. It was actually built. The idea was essentially put on the back piece of paper to help our salons. We had ATMs in. We were putting the tips and payroll or paychecks. So it was every 2 weeks. So you weren't getting that immediate gratification. Then we went to the ATMs. That took up retail space, and clients had to pay to get money out. So I just figured out how to be a different way to essentially digitally tip somebody, knowing that everybody is going to credit cards. So we kind of built for our salons, and then I went to David and said, "Hey, I think it's gonna be a bigger thing." And it's been like I said, a fun ride, and it doesn't happen overnight. So we're pretty excited at what we've accomplished today and the integrations we have, especially with Aura. And we're excited for what we can do there. The integration is a good product, and it's like a seamless way of accepting the tips, which you might do already, but obviously we pay out the tips instantly. And I know you guys will get in that later.
And I'm Dave Tashton. I'm Terry's partner and super excited to be here today too. And I'll never forget the day I met Lori. It was at a show, and I came walking over, and her CEO was manning the booth, and Lori was in the back doing all the work. And I was pitching the CEO. This was for Rosie at the time. And the CEO finally looked at me and said, "Look, to tell you the truth, I don't have a clue. Go see that blonde over there. If she says yes, I'll do it. She knows everything." So us being here today is all thanks to that blonde, Lori. And Lori, thanks for believing. It's been a great ride. We are super excited to have this opportunity with Aura. We've been chasing Aura, and we've been chasing it specifically because it's got our perfect account base. The customers that are comprise Aura are really the market that we really go after. So super excited for you guys. And when we started, as Terry mentioned, there were three issues, and those three issues were all of a sudden, with the migration from cash to plastic, we were incurring processing fees. And all these salons are running, we're running about an 8% margin in our salons. And the processing fees on tips were really affecting us. So that hurt. The second issue was everybody was used to walking out with cash in their pocket every night. And that wasn't the case when somebody tipped on a credit card. They had to wait up to 2 weeks to get it in payroll. Consequently, we were going to the bank every day, withdrawing $1,500 per location, bringing it back. When the doors closed at 8 o'clock, we were going through credit card receipts and doling out cash just to keep people there, because other salons in our vicinity were doing the same thing. And if we didn't do it, our retention would stink. So that was a huge pain in the butt. And you can imagine the cash flowing everywhere. That was unsustainable. And then the third thing, ironically, and we didn't even realize this, tips were going down. And they were going down. We investigated this. We did a study and learned from the customer base that when they tipped on a credit card machine at the front desk, the customers believed that the stylist was never going to know what they tipped. So ironically, normally a $20 cash tip at the credit card terminal became a $15 tip, not because they were trying to be mean. It's just because they didn't care as much, because they thought it was going to the salon and the salon was going to take care of it and give it to the stylist. They weren't going to get credit for it. So those were three big issues for us. We solved all three. And I'll tell you quickly how we solved them. The last one I just mentioned, which is a customer will tip more when they know, we solved that one by, our software takes the track one data, off the track one data on the back of the card. We know who the customer is. And when we're integrated with Aura, now we also know who the customer is immediately. So consequently, when we present the tip to the customer and the customer tips, we can tell the customer, by the way, when you tip here, there's a small convenience fee added on here, but your stylist is going to get a notification on their phone before you walk out the door with your name and the amount of the tip. Well, guess what? Tips go up about 22.3% on average across the nation. And we've reached over $1 billion in tips. So it's a pretty standard average. So we're super excited about that. Then the customer's also told, and by the way, before you get out the door, these proceeds are dropped into their personal bank account and accessible as cash for them immediately, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even if you're tipping on a Saturday or Sunday when the banks are closed, Tippy automatically floats it into their account. So the customers love that. And then we give them the old pitch. There's a small convenience fee added up to make this happen. Nobody after COVID has complained about it. Terry, you remember pre-COVID, we probably had a dozen complaints in 2019 when we first started. And we're like, oh no, what's going to happen? COVID hits. The customers, we actually get the reverse. Oh my God, happy to pay a small fee and thrilled. This is so convenient. I'm sick and tired of having to get cash and bring cash in my pocket. So that has really worked out. And the third thing, more towards the owners, is the processing fees. We're saving you processing fees. With Aura, we're going to give you a rebate every month of 2% on all tips processed. So you're getting that money back in your pocket. So it's just super exciting. It solves all the problems. Now, to date, we've had a significant amount of takers across the nation. We're all 50 states. That's worked great. But we've had a big break here recently with this whole tip tax legislation. And this is just, it broke the ice for everybody. And there is absolutely no reason now not to get Tippy. And in fact, every reason to get it with these tip taxes changes. And Lori, if you like, I'm happy to do a quick walk through those. Would you like me to do that?
Definitely, please.
Okay. So there are two parts to this. One is owner oriented, and we've been fighting for that part. It's called the 45B tip tax credit. And we've been fighting for that with the PBA. That's been going on since 2015, before us. And PBA has spent millions of dollars on this, and they've got some great benefactors through the ISBN with some big customers like Gordon Logan, who owns Sport Clips, and some others. Gordon Logan was paying the salary of the people at the PBA that were working on this. And ISBN, other ISBN members were also kicking in a lot. And a lot of salons around the nation were donating money for lobbying efforts. because back in 1993, the government gave to the restaurant industry, which has this massive lobbying effort, much bigger than the beauty industry, they gave them a dollar for dollar tax credit. So when a customer would tip a waiter and the restaurant would pay the FICA on that waiter's tips and get no benefit for it, they were complaining. So the government gave them a dollar for dollar write-off. So when they pay that FICA on those tips at year end, they get a dollar for dollar write-off. So they get it right back. The beauty industry did not get it, and it made no sense. And sure enough, we got it. And so we just got this through this, what they call the big, beautiful tax bill or whatever the heck it is. But we're super, super excited. It's something that was way overdue. It's going to save the owners a lot of money. And it now encourages the owners, rightfully so, to encourage the stylists to report their tips. Now, why would the stylists report their tips? Because they don't want to pay taxes on them. They'd rather have cash tips. So the government has now come in this bill, and they have passed this legislation, and it is retroactive to the beginning of this year. So very important you get on this right away and talk to your tax accountants. The first $25,000 of tips that a stylist receives in this year, they don't have to pay taxes, federal taxes on. They still have to pay state taxes, but not federal taxes. But obviously the federal taxes is the big nut. So they no longer have to pay that. And now they're encouraged to report their tips. And why? Because now, without having to pay taxes, they can now go and prove much higher income so they can get bank loans, mortgages, and in the long term, higher Social Security. So this is imperative to get your staff trained as how important this is. Get rid of things like Venmo and all that stuff, and get rid of encouragement of cash. You no longer have to deal with cash. Now is the time to do this. Now, there are a couple of whereas the FICA tip tax credit, there is no limits on it, and it is permanent law. I will tell you, the no taxes on tips has a couple of tweaks to it, which I want to mention, which are really important. Tweak one, they look back to 24 or the prior year. So for 25, they look back to 24. For 26, they'll look back to 25. If your income was under $150,000, then you get the full $25,000 benefit. If your income was over $150,000, then it's a step down in that benefit. And let me give you an example of how that works. It steps down for every $1,000 higher of income, it steps down $100. So let's say somebody, instead of making $150 last year, they made $160,000. So they made $10,000 more. So that would be 10 units more. So you would take that 10 units, multiply it times 100, so that's $1,000. So they're allowed to write off $24,000 in 2025. But we know what the income levels are of the average stylist across the nation. So this is significant for everybody. The other interesting tweak to this is it's only effective. It's not permanent law. It's only effective until 12/31/28. At that point in time, we're not tax lawyers, we're not lobbyists, we're not government employees, but we don't see a way, and I think the nation doesn't see a way, where they won't have to continue this. Once they give something like this, historically, you never see this taken back. So we encourage everybody to take the opportunity, and we anticipate this will be enshrined permanently in tax law before that time or at that time. And we encourage everybody to take advantage. There have been, I know, I'm sure you'll have some questions, but I'll plop a few of the kind of the FAQs, the questions, because we've done a few of these webinars that we frequently hear. The most important is, oh my God, I honestly haven't been reporting much in tips. All of a sudden, I'm going to report, $15 or $20,000 of tips. Are they going to come in and audit me immediately? And the answer again is we're not tax accountants. Talk to your accountant. We are not the IRS, but the IRS is doing this to encourage everybody, not to discourage everybody. It's a benefit, not a disbenefit. We don't see that. We don't see that happening. What we do see happening, though, is we are seeing the IRS coming in, and the first thing they ask when they come in to do audits of a salon are, we'd like to see everybody's social media accounts. We want to see their Venmo account. We want to see their Square account, things like that, Square Cash account. And if you're not reporting those, you're in trouble. That's why we encourage everybody to get off of those, get into this. It provides full accounting. It provides 100% transparency to the owner. And when stylists don't report tips, as crazy as it sounds, if you're a W-2 salon and your stylist took a tip on Venmo and didn't report it to you, you're liable to the IRS for the taxes, the FICA taxes on that, and they will come after you for that. And you're liable for some other things too, back taxes and things. So stay away from that stuff. But now the whole kind of the moral of the story is, bam, the door is open. The opportunity is here. The most important thing you can do now is explain to your staff that this is not just a savings this year or next year. This is a lifetime change in the way you're going to be able to live. This is a lifetime change in you going to the bank and credibly proving to them that, last year I didn't make $85,000. I made $115,000, and getting higher loans and being proud of it rather than having to hide it. The opportunity for growth for the stylist is significant. The opportunity for long-term benefits of buying the homes, and particularly of Social Security in the long term, which they won't be thinking about unless you really sit down and talk to them about it. And there will be people going around the nation talking about this, and we will certainly be doing the same. And happy to do that with you guys. And I want to throw a plug in for COPSA Ate. COPSA Ate does a lot of accounting across the nation. Laura, you know him, you see him at all the shows. Anybody that attends Data Drivens of the World and all these shows, COPSA Ate is always there. April McDaniel specializes in this field, and she is a wealth of knowledge. And that's the gig.
She definitely has a wealth of knowledge. I'll shout out that disclaimer again that you guys are not tax accountants or any of the above. Something that I can imagine that this is definitely going to do for salon or beauty industry in general is going to elevate the the income, right? Because if everybody's including it in their income as an industry, when we're trying to grow new service providers or grow our businesses, we can recruit and say the average income is much higher now than what we've been able to historically say, because people are hiding their tips income, which is significant and can definitely make a difference when they're looking at a W-2. And definitely when they're looking to get loans or a car or a house or do whatever, to include that amount is significant.
You make a great point, Lori. We're talking to a bunch of schools, and we now have Tippy in some schools. They're not allowed to take cash compensation to cut when they're in a school as a student, but we are taking tips for them in the schools, and the average student's getting about $700 throughout their education, which is a significant amount of money for them, which they don't now have to pay taxes on. So that's really cool. But from a retention perspective and from a hiring perspective, the salons that go to these schools now and explain what you just pointed out, they are going to have the opportunity to attract those. If they're fully knowledgeable of this now, they will be the salons that attract these students. The ones that explain to the students, hey, let me explain to you how this works and what this is going to mean for you at my salon. They're going to get those students. It's also going to attract more students into the industry, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, I think everybody expects like the instant gratification. You see other industries, doing it, when it comes to like financial wellness. And I feel like for such a rising and trendy industry, it's good that we're finally taken some big leaps here. You know, Katie and Myra, the PBA team, obviously been pushing for this. To your point, Lori, they get the income average up because we all know it's higher, and it's a serious industry. We can make good money and and enjoy doing it. But from a financial standpoint, it's always been behind. So I think this is definitely a big leap. And in instant gratification, we have clients that actually will put Tippy in just so they can go advertise when they're hiring that they pay out tips instantly. That
Mhm.
puts them again against their competitor down the street that's also trying to hire the same person.
Mhm.
Whether it's massage therapists, hairstylists, estheticians, nail techs. So we feel like that instant gratification, you shouldn't just be told that your tip is there. You should actually have access to it immediately, which they do. They can go buy you lunch as soon as the client leaves or before they're in their car.
Mhm. Um, I know Terry, you mentioned this in the beginning too, but I just want to talk through a little bit like the alternatives, right? Because you mentioned ATM, and I asked that question like, who does have ATM? Because I was in the salon, it was something we considered also like putting in an ATM. But if we just talk through that a second, because it's not like you can just go buy an ATM, fill it with cash, and let people use it. Like you're borrowing the ATM, right? And you're making a monthly payment on that ATM. There's a fee associated with that. Like, you guys have some experience on salon businesses using ATMs?
Yeah, it was a nightmare. We had like again, I like it because I was marketing and selling the focus on selling the retail. So right away you're taking away retail space where we had our ATMs placed and they look ugly. We have a nice looking salon, so we did they had this big gray machine sitting there. And to me again, it's just very antiquated. Yeah, I don't. It's someone gets out usually like a 20-hour increments, they might tip $20 because it seems like a lot, but in reality, that's probably not a 20% tip, depending on what kind of services they're getting. So you're kind of missing out on it. We actually had that scenario when we first launched with one of our stylists at our salons where he was like, "Hey, cash is king." I'm like, "All right." And then he started realizing he was only getting like less than 15% because people were paying cash, whereas if he was using us, so I think within 24 hours when he saw what everyone else is getting, he was signed up and ready to use Tippy. So that was a great example right there. And that's when we knew we were onto something. But yeah, I mean, there's all the alternatives. I mean, obviously a big one, and most people put tips, they accept it's cost of doing business. You process the tip, you put it in payroll. It is what it is. Obviously, a good thing for the stylist or reporting it. But we feel like we're the best of both worlds. We can help them save money and give them the instant gratifications and access to the tips. So we feel like obviously a better option than Mevo or sorry, Mevo, Venmo. So as David said, like Venmo is not, it seems easy. And to me, it seems really disconnected, to have somebody, it seems a little disingenuous to be like, hey, Venmo me my tip. I think it's the same as cash where they're missing out on what they should be getting, the total amount they actually should be getting. And as David pointed out, it's a huge risk for the owner. We've heard of multiple scenarios where the owners are getting in trouble because they're allowing whether they're allowing it or not, the fact that they know what's going on, it's the same thing as cash and but actually trackable, and there's the records are there. So again, we feel like we're a great mix of all the scenarios, just a little bit more legitimate.
Mhm. And service providers use their tips for all sorts of things. Like I could see where, okay, maybe we hold on to your tips and we don't pay them out for 2 weeks. And then they're like, okay, great. Now they're safe. Now I'm not going to immediately go out and spend that. But the alternative to that is, do you need gas on your way home? You need to pay daycare. You're booking a vacation. You need groceries, whatever. And you have the funds accessible to you right away. And sometimes cash can be king, but also sometimes cash can be like easily spent, right? Like you have it, it's quickly here, it's quickly gone kind of thing. And with Tippy, they're getting it into this digital wallet. So do you guys want to talk through a little bit what that looks like instead of just handing them cash out of the register every night?
But that's a great feed into Marcy, who's the pro at all that. Let me just tell you one thing we've learned. Um, Marcy's going to explain to you how we get it, how we're able to get it to them so fast, and how we set them up with that digital wallet, which has some benefits that are really now high net worth benefits because these are now high net worth players. So they're going to get free ATMs nationwide. They're never going to be paying the $3 again to withdraw cash. They're going to get cash back on their cards when they go shopping. They go to Chipotle and get 4% back and stuff like that. So we give them all those benefits and a no fee real card. But the thing I wanted to point out was when it gets dropped into your family bank account through payroll, it gets mushed with everything else, and it gets spent and forgotten about and not appreciated. We have found when we drop it into this separate bank account for them, that, and by the way, they can transfer out of it. Marcia will explain all that, but for free, unlimited. But when we drop it into this account, we have learned that people are saving it a lot more. They forget how much they're getting in tips. Now they see it, but it's not dropping into the account where the spouse and the kids and everybody's attacking it. It's in a separate account that they actually do save more. We had one woman at it was a Sharky's Cuts for Kids. She was not technologically inclined. She didn't speak great English. And she came in after a year and 3/4 of our operating there with a new telephone and asked her friends there if they could help her get set up on the new telephone because she didn't know how to do it. And they moved Tippy over to the new phone and was asking her password and checked her wallet. She had over $17,000 in there. Didn't even know. To show you how everybody, when it gets dropped in their family account, she thought, well, I just thought it had been dropped into my account and I'd spent it. Burst into tears. But people do save. With that, I'll pass to the pro, Marcy.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, so the digital wallet's great because, there's different types of people in the industry, and we hear about it all the time. There's the people who, like you mentioned, Lori, are like, I like my tips every day. I want to make sure, like, if I want to go out to dinner tonight with my friends, that I can just spend my tip money. I don't have to tap into my account. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got the people who are like, I cannot manage my money. I would prefer to have it all hit at the same time so that I can pay my bills. And sometimes we're all those different people at different times in our year or our life, or you know what I mean? So, and what this digital wallet does is it allows for all of those scenarios to be possible, right? Because this digital wallet, everybody gets it. Like David mentioned, it's a free bank account. It's FDIC insured, so their money's safe there. They have full flexibility with how fast they spend it, how they spend it, whether it's through there. They have unlimited free ACH transfer to their external account. So that's a great option too for those people who are like, I'm not sure right at first. Maybe I need to get settled into this a couple weeks before I am spending my money every day, right? So great, no problem. A great way to do that. Let it sit in that account, ignore it for those 2 weeks. The day before you're getting your payroll, pass that over to your regular account. You can pay all your bills out. It's no different. You can control that just like you would normal, like you'd be waiting for it in payroll. Only then once you're used to it and you understand that process, you can have access sooner. Oh, something happens, you need to access those funds more quickly. You can do that. On the other side of the token, you got those people that want to spend it right away, that pull it out, like Terry mentioned. They get that tip, they can go buy lunch, they can go pull it out of an ATM. This wallet just lets them do whatever they want. They really can have their money however they prefer to have it, and at the speed they prefer to have it. I think a lot of times tip cards have like a bad rep in the industry, but this isn't a tip card. I mean, this truly is the answer to digital tipping because again, it's their preference. However they want their money, that's how they can get it.
Marcy, you and I have talked in the past about people like what they're saving money towards, like vacations and things. And I just saw, I don't know, Good Morning America or something, was saying 6 months of emergency funds is what everybody should have now. And it's a very small percentage of Americans that actually have a full 6 month, like as just backup in case, anything happens. But this is also a really great place for something like that. Like David, you said, like, $15,000, $17,000 just like sitting there that was unaware of is a really great place to hold some of that money, for things, emergency things like that too, and wherever they want to spend it. So I know there's overarching like 3 big benefits, right? One for the service provider because they get their money instantly. So even if they're saying, oh, I get them money instantly anyways from the salon, they pay it out to me at the end of every day. Well, the challenge to that, what we found is then the salon runs out of money. Somebody's running to the bank. Frequently you're leaving the desk open because somebody's at a bank run. You can't break the bank, all of the things, right? So, okay, for the service provider, because they're getting their money out or they're trading with each other to get the right amount. But ultimately then more bank runs, more risk when you send somebody to the bank also, and you have to like send them off site to go and do whatnot. So instantly paid out same day, not same day, but instantly, immediately goes to the service provider. They don't even wait until the end of the day. They get it right away. for the salon owner, one, they're not sending somebody to the bank or themselves. They're not running out of cash. There's also some risk of miscounting when you're handing out cash out of the register. Like, oops, the 20 stuck together and they got an extra 20. It's like, they're not going to come back and tell you that, hey, by the way, I got an extra 20 last night. Like they kept that 20. But there's some risk there of miscounting or giving out the wrong amount. But there's also the rebate back that we kind of touched on a little bit also. Can we just elaborate on that a little bit more for like the salon owner? What does that rebate look like? How often do they get this? How do they get it?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful too to just kind of back up and talk through like the process too, so they understand where the rebate's starting from. So basically, when they do the integration, the best part about it is that it's a single swipe transaction, right? So they're going to collect the whole amount through a single swipe. And so for the client experience, it's great because they've got that component of the digital personalization where they're still seeing their person. They know it's going to go right to them, but they don't have to do a second transaction. It's all going to go through together. So what happens then is on the back end, there's a draw schedule. So we float those funds. We make sure their staff gets paid instantly. In the meantime, those funds are going into their business account. And 2 days later, after it's had time to settle into their account, we'll draw out those funds. So it's on a kind of rotation on the back end. So what we've done in order to help provide a financial benefit to the business owner is when they first get started, there's a 90-day wait period. And after that 90-day wait period, they start getting monthly rebates back. And that's 2% back on all those tips and convenience fees that they had processed through their system for the month prior. So it'll go direct deposited in a lump sum right back into that same business account where we're taking those draws from, which, as you can imagine, most business owners have an idea of how much they're processing in tips, on an average. But that can be hundreds of dollars a month. I mean, it's a huge savings for some businesses.
Okay, so when it gets pulled out of that same account, is there a way for them to track that through Tippy to see and monitor what's getting pulled out so that they can keep everything balanced?
Of course. Yep, absolutely. So they'll actually there's two different ways to receive the information. One is they're going to automatically get alerts through email. So it's going to let them know you have an upcoming draw tomorrow of X amount of money. And then you can also go right into your dashboard and you can pull there's a draw report where you can see what draws have come and which ones are coming, so that you can kind of balance that out. That's more of a hindsight one versus the upcoming draws, and the alerts will let you know directly what's coming out the next day so that you can be prepared.
Perfect. Okay, so rebate for the salon owner, service providers get it instantly. What's in it for the client? Sometime around October, late October, I always see some news article, Facebook post, something about like, what should you tip all of these providers? Everybody in my life, what should I be tipping? And that is something that comes out because people just genuinely don't know. And like, it changes frequently. Do you tip more during the holiday? Do you tip whatever you do, right? And for the customer, they sort of need that. And we are in a tipping world these days. Like, you tip everywhere you go. Starbucks asks for a tip. Dunkin' Donuts asks for a tip, whatever. So it's not new to them. They're accustomed to seeing a tip being asked for, especially at a hair salon. That's something that's always been there for the most part. So having preset tips for the customer to be able to either select a quick pick tip amount, or they can customize the tip amount and they can choose what they want to tip. They can tip every provider that maybe they worked with, an assistant, a shampoo assistant, whoever. Maybe there's 2 providers. They can tip everybody, and it's there for them to sort of guide them through instead of having to say like, can I use a calculator, or like, what would this amount be? Should I tip this person? Like, it's there for them and it guides them right through. So the experience from the client perspective is even greater than it was not using a solution like this either, because they don't really know what to tip or who they should be tipping or why they're tipping this person, right? It kind of guides them through that experience.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, because I mean, obviously tip culture has changed a lot in the last couple of years. But when we first brought Tippy into the salons, and it was amazing to me, not only all the benefits that you've already talked about, but the amount of clients who were like, oh my gosh, I like never realized that I wasn't even tipping 20%, or like, oh, I always just brought along my $20 bill and thought that was, sufficient. Like, so many people just didn't even realize, and some of them were too nervous to even ask. So they just guessed and just hoped it was good. They were like, I think this is all right. So it really is something that they appreciate, is having that guidance.
You know, I'll add a point in there too. I would venture to say there's not an Aura customer that hasn't raised their prices in the last year.
Mhm.
And we frequently find, predominantly the older people, older customers, that they kind of, if they were tipping $20, they just think, okay, here's your $20. They aren't paying as much attention to what the service fee is as they are, here's your $20 tip that I got you. Especially when they were traditionally tipping in cash and they've migrated to plastic, they'll still be tipping that $20. So the preset or pre-suggested amounts become much more significant in this inflationary environment to get people to catch up with the price of the services. And we provide full flexibility in those presets. The customers can do it right on the dashboard, and that's really important. We can really fool around with them and do some really fun things, and we can help you optimize. You know, we can tell you, we can go back and work through you guys at Aura, and we can help the customer we can help the salon itself. We can show them how many people, how many customers tipped low, how many customers tipped medium, how many customers tipped high, and when they went to custom, how many customers tipped up or down. That alone tells you if all the customers are, a lot of customers are going to custom and tipping up, that your presets are too low. And we are here all the time to do audits of that for the salons and explain to them, hey, we're going to help you with your presets and we can adjust these and help you actually get your tips up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good. And to be able to see year over year for a service provider, how much more money that they are making than what they made previously also.
Yeah, and those service providers have right in the mobile app now, they'll have a track of every customer. By the way, first name, last initial, not their full names, but they'll have tracked. David L has tipped me $236 this year. And, you know, at year end, they can look back and see who their top 10 customers were and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know why I just thought of this, but there was somebody I remember we talked to that it liked their Tippy funds going to the separate non-family account because they kept that money like for themselves instead
I don't
of
want to, oh boy, Marcy can tell you some stories about that. We don't even want to talk about that. They were trying to hide them from their spouses and stuff. That was
Hey, just
interesting.
all of the ways that you can imagine, right? Of what you want to do with your funds and how you want to spend them and how you want to save them are completely in your own control and outside of ours. It's like for you to manage, right?
I will
Whatever.
say that's one of the coolest things from being somebody who used to work behind the chair and count on tips. It's really cool to see how creative people have gotten. I mean, we get some really cool stories, like everything from like, oh, I just, the last 6 months of the year, I don't touch it. And then I use all that for my Christmas shopping, or I throw a big party every year at the holidays. And so like, I just put that to the side so that I can fund that. Or, like you mentioned earlier, we've heard everything from, people saving up for maternity leave. We had one service provider that found out she was pregnant, just right then stopped, touching her tip account, just let it accumulate, and was able to take some extra time off when she had her baby. I mean, it's just really cool to see what people have been able to do with that once they kind of have that other resource where they can kind of split that money off.
Mm-hmm. Just to for know that we currently have a wait list that's going right now for our launch, and I shared the link in the chat so you can sign up to be on the wait list. But to talk through how it works a little bit, because I know we have some users that are using Tippy today as a side-by-side version, right? As a non-integrated, so they're waiting to get that integration. But what is the customer flow, like that experience that the customer goes through? Because we don't want anybody having extra steps or to take extra time at their checkout because we know that they're ready to go. Can you walk through what that flow is a little bit for the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. So when your customer comes up to check out, and am I able to share my screen, Lori? Because I
Yeah.
can show a visual while I walk through this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, perfect. So when the customer comes up to check out, for them, if you're already doing credit cards on tips through your system, then the flow is going to be very similar from that for them. The best part is that it's going to be a little bit more elevated because they're going to have our checkout screen, which is going to be really cool. So you bring up their ticket in Aura, like you were just checking them out. Once you initiate that, it's going to activate everything on our iPad. So this is what we send you when you sign up for the integration. We send you what we call the kiosk, and it's going to be an iPad and a stand, and it will stay customer facing. So if you're using the standalone currently and you're used to having to swivel it back and forth, that no longer, because it will automatically communicate with the point of sale. So you'll go ahead and initiate the checkout process. It's going to send the screen over. So the client will see the picture of their service provider, those 3 suggested tip amounts, as well as a custom amount button. So they can hit other amount and type in whatever custom amount that they'd like. It does let them know that that small convenience fee is being added in. So the convenience fee is 50 cents plus 2.75% based off of the tip amount, not the entire ticket. So you can see in this example, it gives them the detailed screen of everything that's going to be a part of their checkout. And then at the bottom, it does tell them the grand total. So this will include everything. So their services, their products, the tip, the convenience fee. And I know you mentioned earlier, Lori, that they can tip multiple people. So if there were multiple people on the ticket, it would have walked them through each person. They'd each have their own individual prompt. So it would have done Angie, and then it would have went on to the next person and the next person. And you'd see them all listed here under the tip section. And then it does just give them that grand total, and they'll do a single swipe for the entire transaction. So it combines everything together, gives them the grand total, and they'll complete their transaction through your existing card terminal. So it'll all go through as a single process.
Okay. And with that said, of course, using Aura Pay for your payment processing is required for this integration to work.
Yes, great point. And then this is just, I know we already kind of walked through the rebate earlier, but while I've got my screen shared, I'll just kind of show you this as well. This just shows you that flow. So, the client's checked out, those funds are collected into the business account. In the meantime, we're already paying out the staff. We're making sure they get their tips instantly. On day 3, we draw those funds out from the account. And then once they are opted into that rebate program after the 90-day wait period, then these 2% rebates will start automatically at the end of every month.
Perfect.
And I can just go back here to as soon as that transaction does take place, the service provider is alerted. So I know we've really put a heavy focus on them getting their tips instantly. They get notified right away that they've received those tips. And then they'll be able to see some cool things within their app as well, just some different tip stats. As David mentioned, they can see who their tips came from. They can see some tip details. And then they'll also have their digital wallet where they can manage those funds, and they can set up a savings account here. They can send those funds out. They can leave them sit here, whatever they want to do, but they'll be able to manage all that from right within an app right on their phone.
Perfect. Is there a salon type or business that maybe would not be a good fit for Tippy?
So anybody who doesn't have W-2 employees, who's all contractors, would not be ideal. Also, anybody who's got less than 3 full-time employees, 3 or 4, doesn't always make sense for, but we can also talk through that. There are exceptions to that rule, but otherwise, anybody who's got W-2 employees, anybody who's accepting tips, and using Aura software and the Aura Pay system is a great candidate for the system.
And I know we've gotten questions before too, where people are starting to remove their physical front desks a little bit and maybe just checking out from the chair or whatnot. How do you guys see salons that are without a front desk processing and doing this transaction?
So it really is like a case by case basis, because it does require the iPad screen. So it really depends on how they're individually handling that. But that's also something that we can talk through with them.
Okay. And the iPad is mobile, like they can,
yes,
they can carry it throughout the business if they need to and trade it and move it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like screwed into the counter or anything. They can move that around.
Yep. And still the business would really only need 1, maybe 2 of the iPads, but you would not need one at every station if you are doing a station or chairside checkout. Like you do not need one Tippy terminal at every station.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be excessive. You wouldn't need that. That would be a lot of equipment. You can manage with just one or two, like you said, as long as they're just moving them around. And basically they just have to stay charged. So we do have businesses that will charge them overnight and then, use them in a more mobile fashion, during the day, business hours, and then just plug it back in at night. But
Okay.
otherwise it operates off of Wi-Fi, so it doesn't need to be like hardwired into anything.
We have some massage locations that do that.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially if they have treatment rooms or whatnot also.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So instant tipping for service providers, rebate for the business owner, and a better and a smoother experience for the client. Anything else at the top of that list that we think are important for Aura salons to know about Tippy today?
I gotta throw in one thing, and they always get mad and they hesitate to put me on calls sometimes, especially on pitches, because they always joke that I'm going to give them a free pony or a car at the end of the call. But if you're a little bit hesitant or your staff is like, I don't know, you know what change is like at a salon. It's always hard. We're happy to kick in a little pizza party for the staff and everything when they launch, just to make them comfortable. So you let us know.
Marcy, do you want to talk through what that sign up process looks like so people understand that? Because what I did share our page here, and this is where salons can go to join the waitlist. But if they're not quite ready to like jump on the waitlist yet, want to know more, like what is that process if they want to bring on Tippy?
Yeah, so we do have that landing page where they can go ahead and get on the wait list, even if they're just looking to learn more, if they'd like to schedule some one-on-one conversations so we can talk about, whether or not it's going to be an ideal fit for them. They let us know. There is a benefit, so I'm going to steal a little bit of David's thunder here because he doesn't know I was going to whip this one out. But if they sign up on the landing page to get on the wait list, they will be put on the wait list. They can go a step further if there's somebody that's like, I know for a fact I want to do this. I want to secure my kiosk. They can go one step further and actually set up their account with us a while. If they do that, they will not only lock in their place in line for the shipment of their kiosk, but they will also get their 90-day wait period waived for their rebates. So they will start receiving rebates instantly, which is huge. I mean, that's a big financial benefit to the business. So they can do that. There is no contract. So, we do want to make sure that it's a good fit for them. Obviously, we talked through that in the beginning, but if for some reason they bring it in and it's not quite, a great fit for them, there's no problem, that they're not under contract for a certain amount of required time.
So now you're giving something away too.
Don't try to one up me, David. We don't have to give anything else.
Yes. You can have
Terry,
two pizza parties.
Terry, did we
Like,
approve that? Terry, did we approve that?
I did approve it, yeah.
Okay, so
And Mark, you did say I didn't tell David yet, just so you know.
Fantastic.
David's
Marcy,
like, all right, everyone
And
gets a
I'll still
puppy.
throw in the pony.
Marcy, with the terminal, you mentioned like to get on the list and then they'll be first to get their terminal shipped. What is the standard shipping process for them receiving a terminal? And once they get that, is there an onboarding call? Are there instructions with the terminals? How do they get that set up, turned on and connected and like ready to go?
Yeah, so all of it is so simple. So even from like when I say set up their account to lock in their place, that's very simple as well. It's all done online, mostly through email. There's some secure links we get you set up. Once your kiosk ships, we do connect you with a dedicated account manager here at Tippy. They will reach out right away while it's on its way to you. They'll start helping get your staff set up, but it's all very, very simple. Like I said, even the staff setup part of it takes about 5 minutes. Once your equipment arrives, they'll schedule a launch call where they'll help you connect it. They just have to plug a couple things into our dashboard and Aura to make everything communicate with each other, and they'll be up and running. A lot of businesses will do that sometimes in the morning right before they open for the day. They can do a quick call, get everything set up as long as their staff's been set up, and they'll be ready to go. So we can usually have once everything goes live and the equipment starts to ship, we can have people up and live in a couple days.
That was going to be my next question is, do you guys suggest that people wait until like a fresh pay period, a fresh month, or is it pretty easy to figure out like where tips are in any time?
Some businesses do prefer to wait to launch it at the start of a fresh payroll period just to have a set line of how they separate how they were handling tips to how they're going to handle them now. Other businesses just start it as soon as they can. They're really eager. And so they'll just bring it in. They'll be able to tell the difference between how the tips were processed, particularly if it's only for one payroll period, they have to kind of look at that. So it's really a preference. We have people that do it both ways.
Awesome. Love that. All right. Anything else you think we should share today? We are, of course, we have the wait list set up right now. So the link is in the chat. So you can go ahead and sign up there, or you can just join that list so that somebody from Tippy will reach out to you. So if you do have more questions, that's a time to ask all of your questions, or you can definitely reach out to your Aura account success manager, and they can also help you with any of the questions that you have as well. And we are planning on launching later this month, so stay tuned for that official release of when that will be available. But when you do sign up on the wait list, you are at the top of the list, so you will get terminals out first in that priority order. All right. Well, thank you guys for jumping on, sharing the story and all of the updates on Tippy and the tip tax and that big beautiful bill, and sharing that. We will make sure that we do some update after this call, following through on some of those tax updates and the talk of everything that we discussed today. So we will share that. And then this session is being recorded, so we'll share that as well. So everybody will get a copy of that back.
Cool.
Lori, thank you for the opportunity, and Aura, thank you.
Thank you guys.
so much.
Thank you guys for
Thanks
being
for
here.
having us.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.